So good morning, Shabbat Shalom. Welcome to our monthly Sabbath service. We do these services the first Saturday of every month at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And not necessarily because I'm married to Saturday as the Sabbath. I do think that was the day that Yeshua honored the Sabbath and his disciples, of course, but um, Sunday's good too, you know. Uh, but I usually have other activities planned for Sundays. And so for that reason, primarily, I've chosen Saturday to offer these services. And again, because I do think it was the original day of the Sabbath. We know this. But if you prefer to um, treat Sunday as the Sabbath, that's fine. There's no dogma here, as y'all well know. And but it's an honor to have all y'all here with me participating, and so that we can experience this fellowship together, and so that we can uh, explore God's presence here and now together. And so we'll start off with a little contemplative prayer practice, and then I'm going to speak today about some passages from the homilies that I think are very informative and helpful for those of us who are interested in the restoration of the original way. So that's what this ministry is all about. That's what my YouTube channel is about. That's why I established this church. And that's why I'm part of this research group with some other like-minded folks. But anyway, so that's the primary mission and vision of this ministry, is simply the restoration of the original way as we've come to see it, and as is evidenced in the ancient texts like Q, Gospel of Thomas, the Hebrew Gospel, the Didache, the recognitions and homilies, the Epistle of James, etc. All right. So we'll go ahead and engage in a little contemplative prayer practice. Yeah, so let's go ahead and interlace the fingers and just get a nice stretch up and overhead. Bring the chin to the chest. Give yourself a little stretch to the left, a little stretch to the right, just awakening the body here and stretching a bit because we're going to sit for a while. Want to sit comfortably and be comfortable and relaxed. So let's take those hands and bring them behind the neck and just do a few little circles with the neck here. And do a few circles in the other direction, small, gentle circles, working out any little kinks in the neck here. Good, you can relax your arms. And then just wherever you are in your seat or wherever you are, just take a little twist to the right. Just a nice gentle twist to the right. Squeezing out any tension from the spine. And let's take a little twist to the left. Good. Come back to center. Let's close the eyes. Sit up nice and tall with a straight spine. Although if you need to recline a bit in your chair or sofa or wherever you are, that's fine. Just be comfortable. Inhale deeply through the nose. Hold the breath. Exhale through the mouth with a sigh, relaxing the entire body. Do that again. Inhale through the nose. Hold it. Exhale and relax. One more time. Inhale deeply. Hold it. Exhale and relax the entire body. Relax the shoulders. Relax the muscles of the back. Relax your jaw muscles, the muscles of the face. Let's turn our attention and awareness within as we begin to observe the breath. Fully present here and now with the sensations in the nose as you breathe. Allow your breath to deepen. As you inhale, the abdomen expands and then the chest, rib cage expand. At the end of the inhale, you notice the shoulders rise a bit. And as you exhale, relax the shoulders. Allow the chest to contract, and at the end of the exhale, the abdomen contracts. So nice, full, complete, deep, slow breaths in and out. As we know in the ancient Hebrew, the word for breath as well as spirit is ruach. And in the Greek, pneuma also means breath and spirit. We know there is a deep, profound connection between the breath and our spiritual life. In Genesis, it says God breathed life into humans. In the Gospel of John, it says that Yeshua breathed on his disciples and they received the Holy Spirit. The act of breathing is a sacred act. It is a bridge between the material and the spiritual. Continue breathing deeply. Let's take a moment to be grateful for the breath. Each breath is a gift from God. Each breath is an opportunity for growth, transformation in this life, inside this body, this precious temple that we've been gifted by the divine. So to our sacred breath practice, we'll now add a sacred word practice. And that sacred word is Maranatha in the language of Yeshua, Aramaic. It means, "Come to me, Lord." And this was practiced by the ancient desert mystics of Egypt, known as the Desert Fathers and Desert Mothers, as a way to invoke God's presence here and now. So as we inhale, we'll say internally, Mara, and as we exhale, Natha. So mentally, internally repeating the sacred word practice. As you inhale, Mara. As you exhale, Natha. You can keep your attention in the heart space if you'd like as you practice this. Mara as you inhale, Natha as you exhale. Come to me, Lord. Now, as you practice, allow your breath to soften and become very subtle, almost imperceptible, calm and tranquil. If you become distracted or you have thoughts, that's normal. Simply draw your attention and awareness back to the breath, back to Maranatha with minimal effort. Let's do one more round of Maranatha. And we'll move into our Nepsis practice. Nepsis means watchfulness. Yeshua tells us several times in the New Testament to be on guard and to be alert at all times, spiritually alert. We'll start by bringing our attention and awareness to the body, the physical body. And we'll observe with complete neutrality and tranquility any sensations that occur at the physical level, without reaction, without participation, without identification. Just watching, just observing from the vantage point of the soul. Move our attention and awareness now to our energetic, emotional layer. Observing objectively, dispassionately, any emotional or energetic happenings without reaction, without identification. Moving on to the mental layer, the mind. Observing any thoughts or memories or desires with dispassionate objectivity. No reaction, no participation, just watching with distance and space. And finally, moving our attention and awareness now to the personality, the ego, the identity. Observing the small, limited sense of self from the vantage point of the soul, pure consciousness, without identification with that limited self. Now effortlessly flowing into our Hezekiah practice, which means stillness, abiding as the soul, the witness, the watcher, the observer. Be still and know that I am God. It is in the stillness that we come to know the Most High. Feel God's presence all around you. Feel God's presence and support here and now, knowing that we always have divine support in all of our constructive and selfless works and deeds and actions and activities, now and always. I'll end with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. In the holy name of Yeshua the Nazarene, I pray. Oh. Mm. You can open your eyes slowly, return slowly. Thank you so much for sharing that sacred practice with me. It's an honor to be able to practice contemplative prayer with y'all. I'm going to share my screen here. So I'll be talking today about the importance of committing to the way and to the teachings of the true prophet as Yeshua is known in the Clementine Recognitions and Homilies. And so I'll go through this, and if anyone has a question at the end, when I finish, be happy to answer any questions. I don't want to talk too much about the history of the Recognitions and Homilies, but I consider these to be sacred texts, and I believe they do preserve first century texts like the Ascents of James, the Kerygmata Petro, or the Preaching of Peter, the Circuits of Peter, the Travels of Peter, the Book of Elchi. These were all important early Jewish Christian, so-called Nazarene or Ebionite texts that come from the first century, and many scholars believe that to be the case. And unfortunately, those texts were lost over time, but they did get preserved, thank goodness, thank God, and the Recognitions and Homilies. And so I do believe that they represent that earliest layer or strata of the way, right? And so we're going to be reading from the Homilies today. And this is Book 1, verse 18, The Causes of Ignorance. The will of God has been kept in obscurity in many ways. In the first place, there's evil instruction, wicked association, terrible society. Isn't that the truth? Unseemly discourses, wrongful prejudice, thereby is error, then fearlessness, unbelief, fornication, or sexual immorality is a better translation, covetousness, vainglory, vanity, and 10,000 other such evils, filling the world as a quantity of smoke fills a house, have obscured the sight of the men inhabiting the world, men and women, of course, and have not suffered them to look up and become acquainted with God the Creator, from the delineation of himself which he has given, and to know what is pleasing to him. Wherefore it behooves the lovers of truth, crying out inwardly from their breasts to call for aid, with truth-loving reason, that someone living within the house, which is filled with smoke, may approach and open the door, so that the light of the sun, the light of God, which is without, may be admitted into the house, and the smoke of the fire, which is within, may be driven out. Now from Book 8, verse 5. For even the Hebrews who believe Moses and do not observe the things spoken by him are not saved, unless they observe the things that were spoken to them. So works over faith. Okay, that's what Yeshua taught. That's what his disciples taught. That is the way. It is a works-based soteriology. Soteriology just means salvation theology. So in other words, how are we really saved? How are we liberated at the end of the day? And Yeshua taught that it was by works. His disciples taught that it was by works. Of course, those teachings were corrupted later by Paul and others, Catholic Church, Orthodox Church, Protestant churches, which taught a faith-based soteriology. So part of the restoration of the way is returning to that works-based soteriology. Uh, in other words, talk is cheap. Beliefs are cheap in a way. It's okay to have beliefs, of course. But at the end of the day, it is what we do. It is our actions, our deeds, our works uh, that really matters, okay? For their believing Moses was not of their will, but of God, who said to Moses, Behold, I come to thee in a pillar of cloud, that the people may hear me speaking to thee and may believe thee forever. Since, therefore, both to the Hebrews and to those who are called from the Gentiles, believing in the teachers of truth is of God, while excellent actions are left to everyone to do by his own judgment, the reward is righteously bestowed upon those who do well, not who believe well. For there would have been no need of Moses or of the coming. This is so key, y'all. This is why I love the homilies. For there would have been no need of Moses or of Yeshua. Uh, if of themselves they would have understood what is reasonable. There is neither salvation in believing in teachers and calling them lords. Yeshua says, just because you call me Lord, Lord, that doesn't bring salvation. You must do the will of my Father. He says this, right? And so in other words, we wouldn't need teachers if we just got it. God wouldn't have to send us messengers. And by the way, I believe he sent messengers to various parts of the world, of course, throughout the ages, not just to a tiny little part of the world in ancient Israel, right? Ancient Palestine. He sends us messengers because we require messengers because we just don't get it, right? We keep missing the mark. That's what sin means, to miss the mark. So we keep missing the mark, and we engage in the service of self. We engage in selfish actions and works and deeds, and we don't follow the way. We don't follow God's will. We don't follow God's law, and therefore it was necessary for him to send us Moses. It was necessary for him to send us Yeshua, right? But Peter here is saying that essentially, if you get it, if you follow the way, if you have this intrinsic capacity for following the way, you really don't need a teacher. You really don't need to follow anyone, have faith in anyone, because you already get it. You're already there. You're good to go. But how many of us are like that? How many of us are born like that and live our lives like that? Very few, right? Very few of us. And so, therefore, it was necessary for God to send us messengers. And of course, in the homilies, Yeshua is known as the true prophet, the true messenger, right? And so that's why it's necessary. That's why Yeshua's teachings and his message are so necessary. He came to show us the way, because unfortunately, for most of us, the way simply isn't intrinsically obvious. We just don't get it, all right? But here it says, neither is there salvation in believing in teachers and calling them lords. So just because you believe in Yeshua and you call him your savior figure or something like this, that's not going to save you at the end of the day. For on this account, Yeshua is concealed from the Jews, who have taken Moses as their teacher, and Moses is hidden from those who have believed Yeshua. For there being one teaching by both, God accepts him who has believed either of these. But believing a teacher is for the sake of doing the things spoken by God. So in other words, you can believe in Moses, you can believe in Yeshua, you can believe in some other teacher. That's all well and good. But if you don't do the will of God, it's meaningless. At the end of the day, it's meaningless, right? You're wasting your time simply believing things or having faith in a particular teacher if you don't do God's will. Okay, so it's what we do that matters. It's our works, our deeds, our actions, our constructive and selfless, compassionate, loving, kind, generous, obedient actions. That's what matters. And that this is so, our Lord himself says, I thank thee, Father of heaven and earth, because thou hast concealed these things from the wise and elder, and hast revealed them to suckling babes. Thus God himself has concealed a teacher from some, As for knowing what they ought to do, in other words, if you already know what to do, you don't need a teacher. You're good, right? And has revealed him to others who are ignorant what they ought to do. So in other words, for the overwhelming majority of us, 99.999% of humans currently on planet Earth, right? Most of us don't really understand the way intrinsically, completely. Of course, we have our intuition and we know right from wrong. We have a conscience, don't we? That's sort of hardwired into us. But there might be some little details and nuance that, we don't quite get. And so that's why God sends us messengers, especially Yeshua, the true prophet, to show us the way, because most of us are ignorant about exactly how to live on this planet and how to live in peace. This is quite evident if you follow the news. you know, we got issues. We got issues, y'all. Neither therefore are the Hebrews condemned on account of their ignorance of Yeshua by reason of him who has concealed him, if doing the things commanded by Moses. They do not hate him whom they do not know. Neither are those from among the Gentiles condemned who know not Moses on account of him who hath concealed him, provided that these also doing the things spoken by Yeshua do not hate him who they do not know. And some will not be profited by calling the teachers lords, but not doing the works of servants. So we are God's humble servants, right? For on this account our Yeshua himself said to one who often called him Lord, but did none of the things which he prescribed, why call ye me Lord, Lord, and do not the things which I say? For it is not in saying that will profit anyone, but doing. By all means, therefore, is there need of good works. Moreover, if anyone has been thought worthy to recognize both as preaching one doctrine, that man has been counted rich in God, understanding both the old things as new in time and the new things as old. So we'll close with this verse from Book 1, verse 19, the true prophet. Now the man who's the helper, the messenger, right? God's helper, I call the true prophet, and he alone is able to enlighten the souls of men, so that with our own eyes we may be able to see the way of eternal salvation. But otherwise it's impossible, as you also know, since you said a little while ago that every doctrine is set up and pulled down, and the same is thought true or false, according to the power of him who advocates it. So that doctrines do not appear as they are, but take the appearance of being or not being truth or falsehood from those who advocate them. So, in other words, beware of false prophets and false teachers who say one thing but do another. On this account, the whole business of religion needed a true prophet, that he might tell us things that are, as they are, and how we must believe concerning all things, so that it is first necessary to test the prophet by every prophetic sign, and having ascertained that he is true, thereafter to believe him in everything, and not to sit in judgment upon his several sayings, but to receive them as certain, being accepted indeed by seeming faith, yet by sure judgment. So faith, but also discernment. So we're encouraged to use our discernment to discern the truth. And study other systems, study other religious traditions, other spiritual traditions, other philosophers and philosophies, and use your discernment to come to a conclusion, right? For by our initial proof and by strict inquiry on every side, all things are received with right reason. Wherefore, before all things, it is necessary to seek after the true prophet, because without him it's impossible that any certainty can come to men. That any certainty can come. Right? In other words, what Yeshua provides us when we commit to him and we commit to following the way is clarity. Clarity. Certainty. We don't have to wonder anymore what's true, what's false. How should I be living my life? How can I really experience peace in this lifetime? And how can we experience peace on a collective level? That's why Yeshua came. That's why God sends his messengers like Yeshua to show us how to live in peace, both on a personal as well as a collective level. And when we commit to the way, there's no more confusion. There's only clarity. When we follow Yeshua's teachings, um, we can experiment in our own lives to see if these things really work. And when we follow the way and we follow Yeshua's teachings and we try to, adhere to the 10 commandments to the best of our ability and all that, follow God's law, follow God's will, we notice that we have less drama in our lives, right? And more clarity, more peace of mind. And doesn't mean you're going to have a perfect life. Good luck with that. You're always going to have problems and issues and suffer some here and there. That's part of God's plan, part of God's will. It's in those episodes that we tend to learn and grow and transform and all of that. So that they're there for a reason. Okay. Um, at any rate. So that's my sermon for today. Y'all can contemplate that in the coming week, how why God sends messengers and how we can really commit to following the way, accepting the teachings of Yeshua, and try to really embody the teachings of Yeshua and embody those traits that Yeshua possessed: generosity, love, kindness, selflessness, righteousness, obedience to God. So now I'd love to hear from y'all. If there's anybody that would like to give their testimony, share their testimony, how the teachings and the message of Yeshua has changed their heart, changed their lives, I'd love to hear from y'all. Or if you have any questions, that's fine too. But feel free to just unmute yourself and share.